Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and it is what we call around here game day. It's game day. That's what it is. We are now 7 hours from WandaVision, episode 7 coming out. And, you know, last week, of course, you guys know that Ann and I, we do our weekly WandaVision post-game show, if you will. We do our weekly WandaVision spoiler review every Friday. And of course, Ann and I will be doing our spoiler review for episode 7 tomorrow at 4 o'clock. That's 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. And, but, you know, I had a few people last week mention to me, John, you should do like a pre-show so we can talk about our theories and everything right before the episode starts. And I thought, so kind of like a pregame? Yeah, I like it. So welcome to the pregame show, 7 hours and counting. It is game day, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, this is what we're going to do here. We're going to talk specifically about what we believe we can expect tonight. Now, I know for some of you that'll be tomorrow morning. For me, it's midnight tonight is when it launches. For some of you, that'll be 3 a.m. For some of you, it'll be later, whatever. But for me, it is tonight. So when you hear me say tonight, that's what I'm talking about. So tonight, what are our theories for tonight? What are we expecting to see tonight in WandaVision episode 7? Not necessarily what'll happen in episode 8 or episode 9. How's it all going to work out? But episode 7 tonight, what are we expecting? What are we hoping for? What type of mayhem can we expect to see come out of Westview with the Scarlet Witch, the broken witch, running amok, running a little wild? Things are going crazy in Westview, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm here for it. And I'm all excited for it. Now, what I'm going to do, basically, if you guys have a theory or if you guys have an idea, if you guys have a prediction about what we're going to see tonight, just go ahead and use the super chat feature in the YouTube live stream here. Don't use the tip link below. That's for the John Campea Show. But if you got something you want to get in here for our little pregame show here, use the YouTube channel, the YouTube channel's super chat feature and get that in there. Okay. Now, I want to spend all of our time here really hearing from you guys and what you guys is going to think happened. But let's break this down for a second. We understand that where we left off last week, of course, was Vision got outside of the barrier. Can't exist outside of the barrier. Why? We don't know that yet. Has to go back in. The barrier expands, covers him, and he's perfectly fine. Everybody gets sucked into the barrier except for Director Haywood, Randall Park, and Randall Park's character's name is Jimmy, and Monica. They're the only three that don't make it out. Darcy got sucked into the thing. I'm predicting, I'm thinking, I'm guessing that we're going to see her in her, since we're going to be now fast forwarding to the 2010s in the sitcom era, we're going to get a little bit of Modern Family in there. And in that same era, of course, Kat Dennings, who plays Darcy, was in Two Broke Girls. I'm thinking we're going to see her in Two Broke Girls outfit. I don't know that for sure, but that's just kind of my guess right now. But of course, the big thing tonight, the game breaker, if you will, tonight is going to be who the hell is this engineer that Monica Rambeau and Jimmy are going to meet. They've been mentioning this aerospace engineer a couple of occasions, highlighting, of course, in this last episode, Monica said, we're going to go see my guy. He's going to give us the vehicle we need to get into the Hex unaffected, all that kind of stuff. So we got to ask the question, who's it going to be? I want to throw you guys what I think of the 4 primary possibilities. The 4 primary possibilities of who I think this should be. And then we're going to go over and spend the rest of the time taking your predictions, your insights, and what you think we're going to see. Game day, WandaVision episode 7. I'm excited. Can you tell I'm excited? I'm a little bit excited. All right. Let's get things going here. And I'm not going to attach any possibilities or probabilities to this. We're just who it is. All right. I got 4 options. 4 options. And these are in no particular order. All right. Option number 1 of who I think this person is that we're going to see Monica and Jimmy go and meet is none other than Adam Brashear, known to comics as the Blue Marvel. Now, there's a couple of reasons for this. Number 1, he is in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and not affiliated with the X-Men titles. That means he's already there. They can be used. He's freely available to them. And he was freely available to them even before Fox got taken over by Marvel. On top of that, in the comics, Monica dated Adam Brashear, also known as the Blue Marvel. They dated in the comics. Now, that doesn't mean, just because it's in the comics doesn't mean it's going to happen in the show or in the movie, but just an interesting thing to note, they did date. Also, guess what Adam Brashear's profession is? He's an engineer. Now, technically, he's an electrical engineer in the comics. The character is an electrical engineer, but, they can just twist that up a little bit and just say aerospace engineer or whatever, and there you have it. So we've got a Marvel character who has dated Monica, who is an engineer. That adds up, I believe, to a possibility that we could see her go around and meet Adam Brashear. Now, the big knock on the Adam Brashear Blue Marvel theory is this. Nobody knows who the hell this guy is. No, like the average fan, which is the majority of the audience, has no idea who this guy is. And so while there's a lot of things in his favor, engineer, knows Monica, Marvel character, powers of his own, the one thing working against it, though, is that it's not like this would be a big deal to a lot of people. A lot of people would be like, this, and then we'd all be like Jaimon Hansu in Guardians of the Galaxy, Star-Lord. Who? Like, that's going to be most of us are, who? Like, so whatever. But I do think Adam Brashear is one of our possibilities, so I'm going to put him up there. So that's possibility number one. Remember, these are in no particular order. All right. Possibility number two, again, in no particular order. The engineer they're going to go meet is Justin Hammer. Now, why could this be possible? Well, we know that while he's no Tony Stark, he was a Tony Stark competitor, right? He's a Tony Stark competitor. When you're talking about Sam Rockwell, you're talking about a big name actor. He is already in the MCU, but he's not actively in the MCU. His appearance could catch a lot of people by surprise and go, wait, what? So, I mean, listen, on that level, he's in the MCU, but hasn't been active in it. He is an inventor, creator, engineer like Tony Stark, though obviously not on Tony Stark's level. So he is, and Hammer Tech is something that has actively gone on in the MCU. They even used Hammer Tech in the Netflix Luke Cage series, right? Remember, they kept referencing Hammer Tech and everything too. So this is a possibility. Obviously, the thing going against it is he was kind of taken out of the equation. He's a bit of a dweeb, all that kind of. John, did you just say dweeb? Yes, I did. I just said dweeb. I'm bringing it back. He's a bit of a dweeb, so maybe that works against it. But I'm telling you, that is one of the possibilities. Probably the bottom of my list. Probably the bottom of the four of my list, but a possibility. So we're talking Adam Brashear, talking Justin Hammer. Another possibility here that I think we have to take into consideration, and this is the one the world wants to see, but I still don't know what the real options of it are, but is she's going to meet a dude by the name of Reed Richards. Whether he's played by John Krasinski or not, some people believe she's on her way to go meet Reed Richards, who is one of the smartest people. I think in the comics, he's considered the smartest guy in the comics. I think they might consider him the smartest guy in the comics. Not sure. Obviously, in the MCU, sure, he is the most intelligent person in the world in the MCU. But, I mean, Reed Richards would be one of the smartest guys in the world. What's working in the benefit of this is, of course, they've already announced the Fantastic Four movie, right? They've already announced the Fantastic Four movie. This is something that would make the internet explode. People would lose their minds and lose their shit. It would be absolute mayhem across the world. You'd see warring nations making peace. Everybody would be celebrating together. It would be a hell of a thing. Now, the one thing working against, well, there's two things working against this. The one thing working against it yet is, I don't know that Kevin Feige wants to bring Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four in yet. Clearly, Reed Richards in WandaVision was not originally a part of Kevin Feige's plan, because Kevin Feige was planning WandaVision before he even knew Fox was getting taken over by Disney. He could have changed his mind, yes, but that's one thing working against it. The second thing working against it is, and remember, we're talking about Reed Richards, not John Krasinski. I mean, John Krasinski's just a fan casting. But the other thing working against Reed Richards is, would they really want to introduce the Fantastic Four in like a 7th episode of a different show? Is that really where you want to introduce them? Not sure. So the thing's working for it. He is one of the smartest guys in Marvel. Reed Richards is. So that fills all the things. Number 2, it would make the world explode. It would break the internet. Working against it. Not convinced that Kevin Feige was ready to bring him in. And even if he was, do you introduce the Fantastic Four in just a random episode of one of the Disney Plus shows? I'm not sure about that. But that, Reed Richards, is one of our possibilities, ladies and gentlemen. The 4th possibility that I see here is one it's been growing on me. It's been growing on me more and more and more. And I actually think this one may be the most likely. I'm not saying it's going to be this one. Don't misquote me. I'm not saying it's going to be this one. I'm just saying out of the 4 options, this one seems the most likely to me right now. This has been growing on me more and more over the past week. And that is Quentin Beck, a.k.a. Mysterio. Remember that WandaVision takes place 7 months before the events of Spider-Man 2. WandaVision takes place 7 months before the events of the WandaVision series, 7 months before the events of Spider-Man 2. So as of right now, Quentin Beck is not a criminal. He is an engineer that has worked for Stark. He's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. And think about this for a second. If they show up, if Jimmy and Monica show up to a location to meet her guy, her engineer, and the camera pans up and it's Jake Gyllenhaal as Quentin Beck, you're telling me the internet wouldn't freak out? Are you telling me the internet wouldn't freak out? Not as much as John Krasinski as Reed Richards, but are you telling me that they wouldn't freak out? Of course they'd freak out. Of course they'd freak out. So it would be a pretty big thing. So the options as I see them right now, we got Adam Brashear, engineer, dated Monica in the comic books. Problem is nobody knows who he is, but I mean, that could be something that they do. Mr. Fantastic, Justin Hammer, Quentin Beck, and Blue Marvel. I mean, these are the 4 that I think are our main options. Do you guys have, I've kind of gotten, I was really big on the whole Rocket Raccoon one. I've moved away from the Rocket Raccoon one. It feels like the timeline doesn't line up well enough for her to know and trust him. Now, there are some people saying, what about Hank McCoy? The problem with Hank McCoy is this. I don't believe for a second they're bringing in X-Men characters. They could. That's a possibility. So I won't say that bringing in Hank McCoy is an impossibility. Hank McCoy, after all, hey, he's the one who made the Blackbird, right? At least in the movies. I just don't think they're ready to bring in, I don't think Kevin Feige is at all looking at bringing in X-Men right now. Some people saying the kid from Iron Man 3. Problem is that kid's still too young. That kid's still too young to be a world-class genius aerospace engineer. Still too young. But there are other possibilities. Hank Pym is a possibility, right? We talked about that one before. So there are others that are on there. Somebody in the live chat is saying Fitz from, I don't think Kevin Feige has any interest of touching anything in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He never liked Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He always disavowed Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't think we're going to see him bring anything from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in. But there's other options. The question is for you guys, who do you think now? Here we are. It's game day, guys. It's game day. Who's going to be that engineer that they're on their way to meet? Those are my 4 options that I'm putting out there. Maybe there's some other ones. Which one of those options do you like the most? We'll have to see. Okay, and we're less than 7 hours away now, guys. We are less than 7 hours away. Okay, let's now stop wasting your time hearing what I think. Let's get in and start taking what you guys think. All right, this is taking your predictions, comments, thoughts, and everything about tonight's episode. Once again, if you want to send in a thought or comment or whatever, don't use the tip link in the description. That's for the John Campea Show. Use the super chat feature here in YouTube. And thank you, everybody who is sending in thoughts, because not only are you giving us fun things to talk about, you're supporting this channel as you do it, and we all thank you very, very much for that. All right, let's get rolling here. Kirky Novak says the engineer is probably going to be just a Skrull and not really anyone important. Maybe Talos, unless it's going to be Teddy's mother, possibly. Hey, listen, here's the thing, though. They have been teasing and building up this engineer. They dropped it twice on 2 different episodes and made a fairly relevant deal out of it. I don't think it's going to be some random Skrull or anything, although you never know. If there's a secret invasion on the horizon, that could be something they do. Carter writes, given the clip of Wanda saying that she wants a day to herself, I bet she'll leave the kids with Agnes and we'll finally find out she's Agatha Harkness. Again, I'm not buying into the Agatha Harkness theory. However, you'd have to be blind not to acknowledge that that's a possibility. They've dropped little hints of evidence. The whole witch costume, the brooch thing, the name Agnes kind of matches up with Agatha Harkness, right? So there's evidence there. We'll find out. All right, next up, we've got Zombatron writes, Hayward said that they didn't know what it took to keep the lights on in the gap. I realize we really don't know what went on between Infinity War and Endgame. It's true. We only got a slight glimpse of it, right? At the beginning of Endgame, we know that the world's a bit of a mess. There are people are still trying to get their lives back together again. Even Captain America himself is in therapy groups with people. It's a mess. And I'm sure there's going to be other Marvel material to come out to show us how hard it would have been for everybody during what they're calling the gap. So it's a good observation there, Zombatron. Daniel Davison writes, love the show. Been a fan since The Force Awakens came out. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate that. Glad you started this channel and love the pregame idea. Thanks for doing this. No, thank you guys for being here. This is fun. Pregame. It's game day. Thank you for that, Daniel. Appreciate the kind words, man. Daniel also writes, hope to see the wife in these shows too. Probably not in pregame. She's busy working right now. Her and my fiance tend to have similar theories, so I love to hear her perspective 100%. Well, don't worry. Anne will, of course, be on the show tomorrow. She'll be on the spoiler review, so she'll be here tomorrow to give her thoughts on the episode, but she probably won't be here for the pregame shows. By the way, make sure you guys let me know if you like doing the pregame show as well. Like I just had some people suggest it last week. I thought it was a cool idea. If you guys like it, we'll do it for the rest of the episodes of WandaVision and maybe for Falcon and Winter Soldier. If you don't, no problem. We won't, and we'll just stick to doing the spoiler reviews after the fact. Michael Giles writes, Mordo, temporal manipulations can cause breaches in time, unstable dimensional openings, insert villain. Hey, where's Wanda at? Again, the thing about Mordo, about coming in, and maybe we do find out Mordo is kind of involved in this, but remember, he's specifically going after, it seems like at the end of Doctor Strange 2, he's talking about going after sorcerers. And Wanda in the MCU is technically not a sorceress or anything like that. But we know that this story connects with Doctor Strange 2, and we know Mordo is going to be in Doctor Strange 2, so that does open the door for that, Michael. All right, Amin writes, seen this mentioned like only once, but do you think the engineer could be Talos's daughter from Captain Marvel? What percentage chance of that happening? I'd give it a solid like 10% chance, because first of all, it could be Talos's science guy. Or did that one die? I can't remember. Did his science... Anyway, whatever. Maybe it's his daughter. They had a connection. Somebody brought that up once before, and that would make sense. So it could be. It could be. We'll have to wait and see. But, I mean, that wouldn't be the strangest thing in the world if it did turn out to be Talos's daughter. It wouldn't be the strangest thing in the world. Next up, James Argento writes, why does everybody assume the big cameo is the engineer? I think the cameo could be... LMD Coulson, no chance. The way his character ended and MCU adjacent Shield, yeah, again, Kevin Feige, listen, I was there at the El Capitan Theater a couple of years ago when they did the big announcement for Marvel Phase 3, and Kevin Feige was there, and when people were asking questions about the television stuff, Kevin Feige was very quick to distance himself from that. Kevin Feige has no interest in getting into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff. None. Unless he's changed his mind. But you could tell if you saw the video of that event that I was at, and when people were asking him questions about the tie-ins, he was like, no, look, that stuff has nothing to do with me. That stuff has nothing to do with me. As far as Kevin Feige is concerned, Coulson died in Avengers, and it's probably going to stay that way. So I don't think we're going to see Coulson. All right, next up, Peter Cunnington writes, Darcy 2 Broke Girls character. I'm telling you, I'm expecting to see it. I am. Min writes, what's more likely? These last 3 episodes are an hour long each. They won't be. Since the show was said to be 6 hours long in total, or we get a secret 10th episode. Nope, there is no secret 10th episode. They've already announced they're doing the making of behind the scene thing on the week that would have been a secret 10th episode, so that's not happening. Also remember, nobody ever said WandaVision was exactly 6 hours in running length. They once said WandaVision's like a 6-hour movie, but that could have meant 5 hours and 35 minutes. That could have meant 6 hours and 10 minutes. I mean, they never said, just so you know, WandaVision is exactly 6 hours long. That was never said. So don't just adjust your expectations. Don't expect each of the last 3 episodes to be an hour long. I hope they are. That would be great, but I don't expect it. James Argento writes, LMD Coulson is a sentient weapon. He is a fan favorite. He's not really a fan favorite. For people who watch that garbage show, maybe. Not Luke level, but Olsen comments were overblown and Paul never acted with them. True, but again, I think Kevin Feige's been pretty clear. I don't expect to see any Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. references in any of... By the way, there's a reason Kevin Feige, while Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was on, never once had any Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. references in the MCU. Because as far as he's concerned, he has nothing to do with it, so don't expect that. All right, next up, the CTB. Now watch, that's exactly what happens. We'll see. The CTB channel writes, hey, John, so the word devil appears in the Cruella trailer. Do you think that kills the China theory about Mephisto? I know, it's a reach. No. No, the China thing has nothing to do with it. You can say the word devil. You can say that, but you can't actually, I don't think look, I'm not an expert in Chinese theatrical regulatory laws right now, but I just think you can't show the devil or have the devil as a character. But again, I'm no expert in Chinese theatrical legislation right now, so I can't really address that. But just referencing the word devil, no, I don't think that would be a problem. Mr. 47 writes, Tony Stark will be the cameo. It would be a powerful and emotional surprise that no one is expecting. Cue the binary sunset. I'm telling you. Listen, Tony Stark, specifically Robert Downey Jr. will be back. Robert Downey Jr. will be back. It may not be now. It may not be in a year. It may not be in 2 years. May not even be in 3 years, but Robert Downey Jr. will be back. I said that about Chris Evans, and guess what? He's back. Robert Downey Jr. will be back. Maybe it'll be tonight. I'm not expecting they'll bring him back in an episode of a television show, though. Ryan Santini writes, hey, John, big fan from Stony Creek, Ontario. I love Stony Creek. I got some friends that live there. Other than Vision, do you think anyone will die in this series? Oh, I think the kids are gone, too. I don't think the kids are making it out of this. To be honest, I'm not even exactly sure that the kids are real. I know Monica said they're real, but that may only be her perception. Monica also said it's all Wanda, and I think we all know it's probably not all Wanda. So I expect that the kids aren't getting out of this. That's my guess. Daniel Davidson writes, it has to be Quicksilver somehow. How else do you explain the super speed? They're in the hex. Anything can happen. How else do you explain the super speed? Hopefully you can help me wrap my head around that one. Listen, I mean, look, is it possible this is Quicksilver? Yes, it's possible. I believe he is an imposter. I believe this is not actually Quicksilver, and I certainly don't believe it's Quicksilver from the Fox X-Men universe. I believe this is an imposter. I think a lot of things in episode 6 point to that, but it could be. Then how is he exhibiting super speed? Same way helicopters are turning into hot air balloons. I mean, look, it's in the hex. We don't understand how things all work in the hex. Plus, remember, there is another power involved here, I believe, other than just Wanda. Whether that's Mephisto or Nightmare or Dormammu or Doctor Doom or anybody else you want to say. So that could be contributing to it as well. We'll have to wait and see. And remember, it could very well be Quicksilver. I just don't think it is, but that doesn't mean it's not. All right, Lord of the Wands writes, what if the vertical expansion of the Hex went so high it actually affected military satellites or maybe even the space station and astronauts? Well, no, it doesn't look like the Hex expanded all that much. It looks like maybe it went a mile, maybe 2 miles, and then Wanda stopped. So even at that, we're not talking about it getting into outer space or anything like that. So I don't think that's probably something that's on the table. Motion Soldier writes, what if this isn't the first time Wanda has broke? She's erased mutants in the past, but doesn't remember. Nobody does. She never had her powers before the experimentation done by Hydra. You got to remember that. She never had her powers before the experimentation done by Hydra, so that seems unlikely at this point. But I like the way you're thinking there, Motion Soldier. Next up, Motion Soldier also writes, or Wanda was the Foxverse, or Wanda was from the Foxverse, and ran away because mutants are hated and forgets. I think we might get Wanda versus Avengers, by the way. Here's the thing you got to remember. When Kevin Feige was planning WandaVision, they did not have access to the Fox library. Kevin Feige has stated publicly that at that point, like he had already been planning WandaVision before he knew Fox was being taken over by Disney. So that entire thing, that seems pretty unlikely. So I think it's probably unlikely at that point. Jar Rodriguez writes, or J.A. Rodriguez writes, Pietro's Funko Pop literally has quotations around his name, Pietro Maximoff. To me, this absolutely confirms that this isn't the Fox or MCU Quicksilver. So I know about this. So the Funko Pop is putting out a Evan Peters Quicksilver from WandaVision, but around his name there are quotations. Does that confirm that it's not the Quicksilver from Fox? No, that doesn't confirm that. I mean, it is a little bit of anecdotal evidence, sure, but I don't think it confirms that it's not. And I don't think he is, but I don't think that confirms it. I don't think toy leaks ever confirm anything. We've seen too many toy leaks that sometimes do reveal things and sometimes actually didn't reveal something that was actually happening in the movie or TV show. So I wouldn't take that, J.A., as concrete evidence. Not yet, even though I don't think he is from the X-Men universe. All right, ZMG Ruler writes, binge the first 6 episodes. First 3, too cheesy. Enjoy 4 through 6. Listen, I'm telling you, I think 4 through 6 are meaningless without episodes 1, 2, and 3. Episodes 1, 2, and 3 lay all that groundwork. It's setting the world of what's happening here. Episodes 4, 5, and 6 are just, run-of-the-mill standard comic book stuff without episodes 1, 2, and 3. Episodes 1, 2, and 3 give this show its identity. Episodes 1, 2, and 3 give this show its uniqueness. Episodes 1, 2, and 3 is what makes WandaVision stand out as radically different from anything else ever done in the MCU. So I personally feel that without 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, and 6 are just run-of-the-mill regular comic book fare, which isn't bad. But I think that 1, 2, and 3 is what makes it special. All right. J Meister 25 writes, never understood the complaint of bringing back dead characters. Any story can be interesting. It just depends on how it's done. This show proves that can work, and it makes Vision's death in Infinity War stronger. Well, no, here's the problem. But bringing back dead characters is the same as anything. You can overdo it. If you overdo it, it loses its effectiveness. The problem with the MCU constantly over and over and over and over and over and over again, fake deathing, have somebody's dead, don't worry, they're back. Oh no, that guy's dead, how sad. No, he's back. Oh no, Spider-Man, no, don't worry, he's back. Oh no, Gamora got thrown off a cliff. Don't worry, they brought Gamora back one way or the other. Oh no, Loki died for a 33rd time. Don't worry about it, Loki's going to be back. The problem with that is when you start overusing any plot device, anything, when you do anything in excess, it loses its power. Because, again, for me as a fan, I felt the scene of Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man dying in Endgame, that was a powerful scene. But it was cheapened for me because, yeah, he's going to be back. Like, death scenes in the MCU now, for me, really don't have any emotional impact. I mean, it's a good scene. It's a good scene. But I don't feel it. Like, when Opie dies in Sons of Anarchy, I know he's dead, and I feel it. You feel it. In the MCU, you don't have that anymore because they keep killing people and they keep bringing them back or tease that they killed them or pretend that they killed them, whatever it is. It all falls under the heading of fake death. They've done it so much now that when somebody dies, they're like, oh, wow, they died. Okay. But you don't feel much because you know it's not going to stick. You know they're going to be back. There's nothing to be sad about. They'll be back soon. Anyway, but yes, anything, even fake deathing or bringing dead characters back, used the right way can be very, very effective. The problem is when you go to the well one too many times or 40 too many times, then it starts to hurt you a little bit. And that's always been my biggest complaint about the MCU. I love the MCU, but you guys know that's always been my biggest complaint. All right, next up, the Wakandan Forever writes, I never heard of Mephisto or Agatha Harkness, so I looked them up. Quicksilver gave Devil Sign in the opening. Run Demon Spawn line. Agatha name makes sense. Pre-game today, big game tomorrow. Well, for me, the big game is tonight. But yes, but listen, Kevin Feige will do Mr. X. All that top of Devil Spawn and whatever, those could be Mr. X, or they could point towards Mephisto. All that evidence I talked about with Agatha could be Mr. X, or it could mean it's really Agatha. We don't know, but do not for a second to think Kevin Feige is not capable of throwing those Mr. X at us. He is absolutely willing and able to throw lots of misdirects at us. Is it? Which ones are, which ones aren't? We'll find out. Next up, Sam Fisher writes, what if the Luke cameo is James Spader? Not James Spader voicing Ultron, just James Spader. I don't see a lot of people getting super excited about that. I mean, I would get super excited about that, but I don't see that being something that a lot of people would get super excited about. D. Wild writes, one of two. Kimberly mentioned maybe the gum was given to Viz on purpose. I don't think it was Sword, but it was Herb that gave Viz the gum and hit him on the back and made him swallow on accident. Same Herb that was about to tell him the truth and is fully aware of Agnes. Can't be a coincidence. Cry for help. Well, here's the thing. I don't believe for a second that outside of the Hex, that Vision, who can take a punch in the face from the Incredible Hulk, I don't believe Vision accidentally swallowing a piece of bubble gum would actually hurt him. But it's part of the show. So when he swallowed it, remember, it went to that animated x-rays, like, oh, look at these turning gears. Vision doesn't actually have big turning gears in his chest. So I believe that was just part of the show. You know what I mean? But I think Herb, I mean, you even saw him talking to Wanda, right? Do you want something changed, Wanda? When he was dressed up as Frankenstein? Should we change something? Like, he's more aware of than most people, kind of like Agatha in that way. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with Herb. All right, next up, FP Cat writes, one of two. Hey, John, I hope WandaVision doesn't suddenly create all the mutants. It would really mess up all of their backstories. As a Canadian, I want to see a Wolverine/Captain America movie set in World War II, but if the mutants just appear suddenly, I can't see how they make that happen. But I don't know how they could do it anyway, but it's not my story. I mean, listen, how they bring X-Men and mutants into this universe is a problem. Because there's no way you can do it without either gutting some of the core essential parts of the X-Men mythology or doing some radical things that makes no logical sense. There is no perfect way to do it. There are a lot of problems with saying they've always been around, like having a World War II with Wolverine, Captain America. That's very problematic. That causes a lot of problems for their timelines. Saying that they suddenly just appear now, very problematic. The reality is there's no one right way for Kevin Feige to do this. Kevin Feige's just going to have to find the best way possible. And we as fans are just going to have to accept that it's not going to be perfect. Because this is a no-win situation. So he's just going to have to find the best way he can. Thanks for that, FP Cat. Daniel Weissy writes, the Luke Skywalker level cameo will be Mark Hamill. Like so many people think that, but probably not. But wouldn't it be funny? Our Cameron Peterson writes, I mad bet with my family. Care to join our game? I don't know what that means, Cameron. Howard, villain or just jerk? Right now, if you're talking about Hayward, not Howard, if you're talking about director Hayward, right now, I think just big dick. I actually think he's a good guy. He could be involved in something more sketchy, but I think he's just a big dick, just like Thunderbolt Ross. Good guy, but a giant dick at the same time. Cameron writes, Evan Peters, Quicksilver, Mephisto, Nightmare, or other. Could be any of those. I don't think it's Quicksilver, but it could be any of those or another. I'm not buying Mephisto or Nightmare yet, but they definitely are on the table. That Yo Magic commercial certainly made me believe a little bit more. Final guesses on Aerospace Engineer. I just ran through my 4. Agnes, good or bad? Victim. Either way, even if she's Agatha Harkness, I'm kind of guessing she's a victim. That's my guess. Final prediction, Bill and Tom survive outside the Hex. I can't remember who Bill and Tom are. I can't remember off the top of my head who Bill and Tom are. So I don't know. It's hard for me to say. Ralph, significant or not? I'm thinking it might be a dead husband. I was thinking like everybody else that he's going to be this guy that really comes into play, but now I'm thinking he might just be literally Agnes's dead husband. That's why she looked so shocked when she looked at Juan and said, you can bring people, like when her kids suggested she could bring people back from the dead, and she looked at him and said, you can do that? Like she was shocked. So that's possible. Last one, based on current info, who is the big bad? Wanda is the big bad. I still believe that Wanda is the big bad. Oh, Billy and Tommy. Yeah. Well, I was thinking, Wiccan and Speed. I always think of them as Wiccan and Speed. No, I don't believe Bill and Tommy make it out of this. I really don't. They could. I'm not saying it's impossible. Definitely not saying it's impossible. I just don't think they will. Current info, who's the big bad? I think there is another player involved, but I think the big bad is Wanda. There could be a Mephisto involved. There could be a Nightmare involved. There could be something like that involved, but still at the end of the day, the bad guy here is Wanda. All right. Hamza Hussein writes, I think many of the reveals in the show will be a lot simpler than we have speculated. Others will be things we never even thought of. I agree. You know, they say that quite often the simplest answer is usually the right one. Right? You've heard that saying before, right? Usually the simplest answer is normally the correct answer. And that could very well be the case here, Hazma. All right. Hey, guys, just so you know, I'm only going to keep the super chats open for another 5 or 10 minutes. And then I'm going to shut it down. So if you've got a theory, what you think is going to happen tonight in WandaVision episode 7, fire it in here quick, because then I'm going to shut it down so I can make sure we get through all the ones that you guys have sent in today. So we don't have to do a companion video for this later or anything like that. All right. Thanks for that, Hazma. Next up, Mark Joshua writes, hey, John, what's your over-under on Darcy becoming Vision's co-worker in episode 7? You know what? That's not a bad theory. I think more she's going to be a waitress in a restaurant in her 2 broke girls outfit that maybe Vision goes in for lunch on. So I'll set 5% that she's a coworker. 5% that she's a coworker. Daniel Luna writes, probably a stretch, but maybe the way that Ultron comes into play again is by Vision turning into him at the end of the season. Listen, that's been a popular theory, Daniel. That has been a popular theory that we could, that Ultron is in play here. You know, what was Hayward and Sword doing with Vision's body? I think they're trying to recreate Ultron. Maybe Ultron's already been recreated in those 5 years of the snap. It's possible. So maybe they're trying to turn Vision into Ultron. I know maybe there's still Ultron programming in the body parts that Wanda used to create this new version of Vision. Who knows? Possible. Hamza writes, your WandaVision discussions keep me going. Thanks for everything. No problem, man. Thank you for being here and contributing to those discussions. All right, next up, Unbeatable writes, the big cameo is going to be the Golden Girl. The Golden Girl. Thank you for being a friend. The big cameo tonight is going to be the Golden Girls. I feel it. Or maybe Alf. Oh my God, we're not in the 80s anymore, but God. Or maybe Jerry Orbach from Dirty Dancing, or Theo Huxtable, or I don't know. Hey, man, listen. Seriously, Unbeatable, at this point, it could be absolutely anybody. All right, Empire Fan 1980 writes, remember that hooded guy who was staring at Wanda in the Halloween episode? Maybe it's just an extra who had the hots for Elizabeth Olsen. If I was an extra, I couldn't stop staring at her either. Again, we were talking about this earlier. Let me see if I can just bring this up. I just took a picture of it on my television screen, but let's bring it up here. This dude right here. I mean, they went back and cut to him a couple of times, right? They cut back and looked at him a couple of times. And so maybe it's just a mannequin, maybe it's something, maybe it's nothing, but that dude is sketchy. That dude is sketchy, my friends. Super sketch. Super sketch. All right, next up. Thanks for that, Empire Fan. Next up, FizzGig. I always like a good Dark Crystal reference. FizzGig writes, do we think Adam Besker, I don't think you said that right, is Blue Marvel will be Monica's friend? He is her boyfriend in the comics. Bashir, we were just talking about that. So I think it's one. I'm not saying it will be him, but that's definitely one of the possibilities. James Betha writes, could we see a Modern Family / The Office mashup in this episode? I would have thought so, except somebody pointed something out, and it was a really good point. WandaVision has only been using sitcoms that are either Disney, ABC, or Fox owned. And The Office, Modern Family, is an ABC show, which is owned by Disney. The Office is NBC, so probably not. I think we're going to see the Modern Family part, but I don't think we're going to see an Office riff, just because they haven't done anything outside of their own thing so far. All right, next up. Nerd816 writes, hey, John, do you think episode 7 will be the last we see of Evans Peters Pietro, or do you think we will see him throughout the remainder of the series? Regardless of who Pietro really is, I'm loving Peters' portrayal. Here's what I think. I think he is artificial. I think he is an imposter. I don't think it's actually him. But I think he will be around to the last episode, because I think in the last episode, I think Wanda loses everything. She loses, even though he was artificial, she's going to lose her brother again. Even though it's not the real Vision, it's just a new version of Vision, she's going to lose her husband again. She's going to lose her kids. I believe in the final episode of Sing, not tonight, but in the final episode, I believe she's going to lose everything. And then that's when she's really going to break. So that's what I'm kind of thinking is going to happen. And yes, I love Evan Peters. I think he's great. And I love the kick-ass joke too. But yeah, I think he makes it through right to the last episode. And in the last episode, him, whatever this Vision is, whatever her kids are, I think she loses all of them in the last episode, which really adds to her breaking. That's my guess, Nerd 186. And thanks so much for tipping in $20, man. I appreciate that, man. All right, Ismail Montoya writes, if we don't get a cameo character in this episode, should we be disappointed? Reed Richards, Nightmare, etc. I mean, no, because if she doesn't meet up with this engineer person of hers that she's trying to go see in this episode, then it will be in the next one. So no, I don't think we should be disappointed. I think all we'll have to do is be patient. I think we'll just have to be patient. All right, next up, Benny95 writes, I think Wanda will say no more Infinity Stones if the Mind Stone is truly behind this, would lead to Doctor Strange 2 and Wanda destroying Time Stone. Well, the problem is the Time Stone's already gone. Like in this reality, all the Infinity Stones have been destroyed. Yeah, they went and got others, but then Cap took them back. So I don't know. Her saying no more Infinity Stones, I'm not sure. Maybe no more heroes, maybe no more Avengers, maybe no more children. Maybe no more, I don't know. Maybe no more Geico. She's sick and tired of the damn lizard commercials. No more Geico. And she gets pissed off and said that. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. All right. Aaron Carranza writes, I think we're going to see a flashback of Agnes and when she comes and where she comes from and who she really is. And Monica Rambeau will show her powers. Okay, see you. That's a little bit of Mr. Kim from Kim's Convenience. Possibly. I suspect, I have no reason to really believe this, but I suspect that episode 7 or episode 8 is going to be a flashback episode of the events that happened between the end of Endgame and the beginning of WandaVision, the beginning of Westview. I think that is going to be a flashback episode where a lot of the gaps are going to be filled in, and maybe even Agnes's gaps. That's maybe where we find out, where did Agnes come from? That didn't sound right when I said Agnes's gaps. That's where we're going to find out where Agnes came from. I think that's where we're going to find out a lot about just about everybody. And then that will lead us into the final episode, which will be like the big Marvel climax of the episode. So that's what I'm expecting to see. All right. Thanks for that, Aaron. Next up, Smilodon writes, maybe not the right thing to ask, sorry, but why aren't super chats enabled on the main shows, but they're enabled on this again? Sorry. No, not rude, but it's simply to keep them organized. So, because if I had super chats on the John Campea Show, then I would have no way of knowing of what questions were being sent in for our spoiler discussions or special videos and which questions were being sent in for the John Campea Show. So just as a way of organizing them and keeping them separate, we use the tip link that's in the description of this video for John Campea Show questions. And then when we do special videos like the spoiler discussions, pre-games, play-in chats, things like that, that's when we use the super chat feature, and that just helps us keep everything organized. So not a rude question. It's a good question. I hope that makes sense though. Let's see. Next up. Nick writes, hey, John, I know this won't happen, but I think a genie or a djinn could be behind this, like the one from The Witcher, could be behind this, or Mr. Sinister. I know it's neither, but speculation is fun. Yeah, again, I don't think we're going to see any X-Men characters in here, and a Mr. Sinister would be totally random at this point. It really wouldn't have any connection in, so I don't really see that. Okay, guys, just give me 1 second here. I am going to go in and turn off, you got like 30 seconds left. I'm going to go in and turn off the super chats now. So you won't be able to send in any more super chats because I want to make sure we get through all of them right now today. So 3, 2, 1, deactivating. Is it going to let me deactivate them? Yes, it is. Okay. So if you try, so just let people know who's in the live chat. Wait a minute, why can't I send in a question? It's because I've had to turn off the things because I want to make sure we get through all the questions in here. So there we go. Okay. Let's go next up. Now it might take a minute or two for that to take. So there's some people might still be able to get their questions in. All right, let's see here. Next up, Mark Redmond just sends in a super chat to be supportive. Thank you, Mark. Jar O'Snokes writes, sleeper pick for engineer, Rocket Raccoon. We were just talking about that all last week, that it could be Rocket Raccoon. Knows Monica from Captain Marvel 2. Also, not a long drive from Westview to Jersey City to see Miss Marvel in episode 9. Well, I mean, listen, the thing about the Rocket Raccoon thing, and we were talking about that all last week, and I'm not throwing that idea out. I mean, it could still be. But it does leave a limited period of time how Monica could get to know Rocket, because even if he left Earth at the end of Endgame and came back like 3 days later, which he could have done, that leaves a limited period of time for Rocket to actually get to know Monica and know him. But Rocket is a character who could build anything. He could certainly build her a device that could get her into the Hex. Next up, a BTS Squad writes, "Hey John, it's Wanda time. So excited. I can't recall a show bringing everybody together to watch every Friday and then have discussions after. It's been a while. It's been a while. This is a water cooler show. This is a water cooler show that gets everybody talking, everybody excited. It's great. I'm not saying it's the best show. I'm certainly not saying that. But man, it gets you theorizing and obsessed with it, and it's crazy on that level. All right, next up, Elif Barazli. I'm sure I'm butchering your name, man. Forgive me for that. I signed back up to Disney Plus on Monday and binged WandaVision. Now I'm considering waking up at 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to watch episode 7. I'm excited. Now, one of the good things about me living in Los Angeles means that 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time is midnight where I live. So I only have to stay up to midnight, watch the episode, and then I get to go to bed. But I'm telling you, man, if it was coming on at 3 a.m., I would probably do what you're doing. I'd probably stay up till 3 a.m. Next up, Hamza writes, "John, love that you liked the show at first and thought it was charming. Now you're obsessed like us all. I've missed this MCU hype." Listen, that's the other thing we got to think about, right? It's been so long since we've had new MCU stuff to talk about. So long. And maybe that's part of it. Like, who knows? Maybe part of the reason we're all so excited and wrapped up in WandaVision, maybe a part of that is because we've just been dying, starving for new MCU content to get excited about. But hey, either way, it's here. Thanks for that, Hamza. Timothy Platt writes, it sends in like $20. Thank you, Timothy. NGL, whenever I hear Brashear, my mind instinctively goes to Donald Brashear. Yeah, I know, right? Donald Brashear, me too. Infamous hockey enforcer. I love Donnie, man. Donnie was a big, strong dude, but he was more skilled. He wasn't like a Marty McSorley who he wasn't like a Cementhead or like Dave Semenko, right? Cementhead, they used to call him, where he was like a big bruising enforcer, couldn't do a lot else. Brashear is a talented player too. Anyway. They've built up the engineers so much that anything less than a recognizable character would be a letdown. I agree. And listen, if it wasn't going to be a recognizable character, they wouldn't have name dropped it twice. It's going to be a recognizable character, I think. Who knows? Evelyn Wakera writes, plot twist, the engineer is Thor's roommate, Daryl. I was just talking to Kimberly Curran about that. She had never seen the Thor and Daryl sketches, which is some of the best stuff ever. So yes, he changed careers, became an aerospace engineer, and Thor's roommate is the engineer. That would be hilarious. Alan Schroeder writes, hey, John, love the show. Thank you so much, Alan. Olsen gave an interview in 2016 about Scarlet Witch's story, mentioned Doctor Strange and said, played by Cumberbatch, coming soon to a TV near you. Could he show up but not be the big cameo? I mean, he can show up. Of course, listen, Doctor Strange is a current active member of the MCU. He is currently in the MCU. He is an active participant in the MCU. But because he's current and active makes me think, what would be the big deal about Doctor Strange showing up? That's not that big of a deal. It's cool. Like Spider-Man. Spider-Man is a current active member of the MCU. So him showing up in an MCU show is really not that big of a deal. It's cool, but it's not a big deal. And so I have a feeling a Spider-Man character, but not Spider-Man himself, or a Doctor Strange character like Wong. I'd love to see Wong show up. I think those are bigger possibilities than Doctor Strange himself. But Doctor Strange 2 is connected to the story, so it could be. It could be. Again, I don't think it will, but I know that it's possible. So let's see what happens there. All right. Some people are saying in the live chat, it's Baby Yoda. Baby Yoda is going to be the cameo. That would make the internet explode. Ryan Towley writes, I emailed because of a missed Streamlab question, but it's Wanda's dream world, but a nightmare for everyone else. And Hayward wants Vision parts for Earth's new defense. Well, yeah, again, I think like I said, Hayward made it clear to Monica when she came back that we're now kind of in AI and robotics stuff, right? Does that not scream Ultron? Maybe. Not to mention they were doing research on Vision's body, and that's a little sketchy that they were doing that. So, I mean, yeah, they were definitely researching it. But I think at the end of the day, he's probably a good guy. And you're right. What's going on in there is good for Wanda, but it's probably going to be bad for the rest of the world. So you're right about that, Ryan. Isaac Beebe writes, geez, Wanda, at least when Matt Murdock lost his vision, he didn't hold an entire town hostage. Yeah, but listen, don't underestimate the trauma. Listen, in Wanda's entire life has been one tragedy after another, right? The story of Wanda Maximoff is a story of tragedy, an epic story of tragedy. So, yeah, Matt Murdock lost his sight, and that's terrible, but Wanda lost her family. She grew up in a war-torn nation. She lost her parents. She lost her brother. Then she lost her husband. She was snapped out of existence for 5 years. I mean, she's taken a lot of crap. Antoine Fair writes, you can bring in the name of a mutant, but they are not a mutant yet. Also, can bring Reed Richards in before he becomes Mr. Fantastic. Oh, absolutely. But again, just keep in mind, certain machinations would have to happen behind the scenes because when Kevin Feige was planning WandaVision, he did not have the rights to Fantastic Four or X-Men. So you have to ask yourself the question, would Kevin Feige have changed his plan for WandaVision once he got that? He said he wasn't going to change his plan, but he's human. Anybody can change their plans, and he's human. We'll see. We'll see. All right, let's move on here. Thanks for that, Antoine. Next up, Alex Alexander writes, watch it be a random person show up in the internet go mad. Yeah, listen, it's true. Somebody asked on the show today, do you think people will be, like, have we all hyped up, and I think we have, me included, have we all hyped up this engineer so much that if it's not somebody big that we're going to be disappointed? Oh, absolutely we will be. No doubt about it. Absolutely we will be. 1,000%. But, I mean, Marvel will have nobody but themselves to blame. You name drop this mysterious engineer twice in 2 different episodes. Of course we're going to get excited. So if it is some rando showing up, Alex, you're right. A lot of people are going to be upset. Next up, Richard Ganther writes, I'm hoping for one, some answers regarding Agnes. I don't think we're going to get those yet. I think we're going to get those in a flashback episode. 2, Reed Richards. I think a lot of people are hoping for that. 3, for Darcy to have an interaction with the Stork from episode 3. I don't think we're ever going to see that Stork again, but I do want to see her in the 2 Broke Girls outfit. 4, that some way Pietro might actually be Pietro. I like this version. Again, I think it's an imposter. I really do. Now, of course, it is possible that he is Pietro from, or Peter from the Fox X-Men universe. That's obviously a possibility. Of course it's a possibility. But there are literally about 20 valid possibilities. I'm just saying I don't think that's the one that's going to work out to be, but it could, Richard. It totally could. All right, next up, Joshua Tabek writes, John, attention has been to the engineer as the Luke Skywalker reveal, but what if it's not? What if it's a dream casting is the big bad guy instead? Oh, absolutely. But the engineer has to be somebody. Again, you tease it twice in 2 different episodes. You're obviously setting up the audience for expectations. So even if there is an even bigger cameo to come later, I should say, the engineer's got to be somebody we know and recognize. Somebody that when it's revealed, we go, wow. Whether it doesn't have to be Reed Richards. It doesn't have to be Quentin Beck. It doesn't have to be Justin Hammer, but it's got to be somebody kind of in that neighborhood. So we'll see what happens. But then it could be somebody even bigger later on for a different role. All right. Empire Fan 1980 writes, I'm going to stay awake to watch the new episode, even though I have to work. I can sleep when I'm dead. WandaVision is more important. Damn right, Empire Fan. Cheers to you, friend, as I crack open another Zevia. Zevia, sponsor me, you cheap sons of bitches. Good on you. You're living your life right, my friend. And I'm telling you, I mean, it's easy for me to say because I live in LA, in the LA area, I should say, in the Pacific Standard Time Zone, where for me it debuts at midnight. So it's easy for me. But I'm telling you, if it was 3 a.m., I would do it too, Empire Fan. Good on you. Living life right, my friend. All right. Soul Brother Mark writes, or Mac writes, the engineer is Victor Von Doom, maybe. Hey, listen, if it could be Reed Richards, it could be Victor Von Doom. Although, I mean, if he is the leader of some country, how Monica knows and has a relationship with this guy, I don't know. But listen, it's every bit as possible, because if Reed Richards is a possibility, and you know what I think is working against that, but if he is a possibility, then Victor Von Doom has to be a possibility too. Hayden Burke writes, the engineer will be Michael Jackson, Shimona. That would get a lot of people talking. No doubt about that, Hayden. Joseph Barrera just sends in a super chat. Thank you, Joseph, for supporting the channel, for just sending that in. Thank you, man. I appreciate that, dude. Very kind of you. Sam YP writes, maybe we should take Luke level cameo literally. It's Mark Hamill playing an aerospace engineer. Hey, listen, remember, Elizabeth Olsen didn't say Mark Hamill level. Somebody asked her. They said, hey, we just had Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker cameo in Mandalorian. Could we see something like that in WandaVision? To which Elizabeth Olsen said yes. But she didn't herself say Mark Hamill. If Mark Hamill showed up, that would be pretty cool. I don't expect that to happen, but that would be pretty cool, Sam. Luke1234 writes, but Justin Hammer is an arms dealer, right? Well, he's a creator. He's a man. His company makes weapons. He's not just a dealer. Like they make weapons. Now, he would be in jail, but Sword would have probably the muscle to get him out of jail if they needed him for something. Again, I think Justin Hammer doesn't have high chances. I don't think it being Justin Hammer is likely. I just said, when you look at everything in the MCU and the way it's structured right now, him showing up would make logical sense. I mean, it does work, even though I don't think it's very likely. All right. Sin Vendetta writes, John, I love that you started doing these pregame shows because it's like a prediction episode, and I love those, so keep these going. Hey, you guys are throwing out the predictions. I love hearing it. Let's keep this rolling. By the way, guys, don't forget to let me know if you do like doing the pregame. If you like pregame, then we'll keep doing pregame before every episode moving forward. And if you don't, no problems. We'll just stick with the spoiler discussion, but we'll see. I got to tell you, though, I'm having fun so far. This is pretty fun for me. All right, next up, Always Sketchy writes, what about Victor Von Doom or Norman Osborn? Again, I don't think it's going to be Norman Osborn. That seems like a weird way to bring him in. That would be a huge twist. Again, like I just said, if Reed Richards, Always Sketchy, if Reed Richards is a possibility, then equally possible would be a Victor Von Doom. Equally possible. Of course, the world and the internet would melt down a hell of a lot more if it was Reed Richards. Specifically, if it was like John Krasinski as Reed Richards. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying that would be the much bigger pop would be that. All right, Kang writes, Al Pacino's Mephisto, hoo-ha! Where are the kids? Hey, we've talked about that a lot. Remember, Al Pacino said a while ago, I mean, it's a couple of years ago now, he is very into the idea of being in a Marvel thing. He's very into the idea. Paul Bettany said, hey, there's an actor coming along that I've been really excited about working with. Hey, Al Pacino could be that. Again, I don't even think Mephisto's going to be in the show, but it could be. And if he is, why not Al Pacino? That would get everybody excited. Andrew Reynolds writes, could Mordo be after Agnes? Wouldn't she technically... Ooh, I like that. I like that, Andrew. Because I've been saying, listen, Mordo makes sense because we know this story is tied into Doctor Strange too. And thus, Mordo maybe being connected in here makes sense. But why would he be after Wanda? She's not a sorcerer. But if Agnes is Agatha Harkness, and I don't know that, I'm still not sure that she is. But if Agnes is Agatha Harkness, oh, you're damn right Chiwetel Ejiofor playing Baron Mordo. You're damn right he would have a target on her back. He totally would be after her. Holy shit, dude. That's a good theory. Hadn't even thought about it. Maybe Herb is a warlock. Maybe Herb's a sorcerer too. Maybe Herb and Agnes kind of help nudge Wanda to create this world to help them hide out from Mordo. I mean, that might be a bit of a stretch. Okay, that is a bit of a stretch. But it's an interesting theory. I like the way your mind's working, Andrew. Well said. All right, Luke1234 writes, what's with the streets, Ellis and Rolling Hill? I don't know. I just think that Ellis Street is just kind of the border of where Wanda set up the barrier. I think that's the only significance to it. Mohammed writes in just a super chat. Thank you so much, Mohammed. Appreciate that, man. K. Nico writes, could Kevin Feige use Sword before the Fox merger? Yes, I believe he could. I believe they talked about that before. There were a number of things that they were able to use, including Skrulls and things like that. So yes, Sword was a thing that they were totally able to use. I don't think Fox was able to use them. As a matter of fact, I don't think Fox was able to use them at all. All right, Nick K writes, it would be awesome to see them introduce Reed Richards or Doom. Also, love the pregame idea. Let's break out the pregame drinks. Hey, I hope some of you guys are tailgating. I hope some of you guys went out and by the way, let me just, serious for a second. Seriously. We mentioned it this morning on the show to all of our film and television loving brothers and sisters down there in Texas. Hang tight, guys. Listen, as a Canadian, I know what it's like to deal with heavy winter, but you guys have never had to deal with this. And if you've never had to deal with it and you're not accustomed to it, it can be a really scary and dangerous thing. Please hang in there. And guys, for those of you who are doing well in Texas, please take care of your neighbors, man. Please take care of your neighbors. We're all in this together, and our thoughts, well wishes to all you guys in Texas. Take care of yourselves. Take care of the people around you. And we're sitting here being distracted talking about WandaVision. Yay! But I mean, that's just entertainment. I mean, really take care, guys, and hang tough. And guys, if we see him, maybe I'll look into some way that we can raise some money. Maybe I can look into ways that we can raise some money. We'll find out what the relief efforts are for the people who are struggling down there, and maybe we'll see if we can do something to try to raise a little bit of money for that. Guys, on your own, look to see if there are legitimate, valid, charitable things going on to help people down there, and please get involved with that. Okay. All right. Let's go back into the hex now. Let's go back into the hex and keep on going, talking about that stuff. But anyway, I was going to say, I hope a lot of you guys, if you're not in the Winterland, you guys are out on your I hope you guys are out on your pickup trucks with the tailgate down, a barbecue going, and a laptop set up watching the stream, and you're having some drinks, eating some barbecue. Do this real pregame style. Maybe I should do that next week. Maybe next week for the pregame, I'll go into my backyard with my barbecue, and I'll just bring my little webcam and a laptop, and we'll just do the pregame from the backyard and on my barbecue. Maybe that's what we'll do. Okay, let's move on here. Thank you for that, Nick K. All right. Muhammad also writes in, Paul Bettany said the big surprise actor is someone I've long worked for my whole life. No, he didn't. We'll get to that in a second. Makes sense if it's a Patrick Stewart or a Sir Ian McKellen. Here's the thing. He never said that. What's been going on is, Elizabeth Olsen said that thing about, there is a big surprise in this one, like the Luke Skywalker thing. In another completely separate interview, Paul Bettany said that there's an actor he's always wanted to work with that he's going to get to work with here. But people have been acting like the two of them said that at the same time. And that's not necessarily true. The cameo and the person that Elizabeth Olsen was talking about could be a completely different person than the person Paul Bettany was talking about. I'm not saying that they are completely different people. I'm saying that you got to remember those two statements were made by different people at different times. So, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. But it could be Ian McKellen. Some people say, but they work together in the Da Vinci Code. Yeah, but they barely work together. So it could be that. Patrick Stewart, Michael Fassbender, or somebody else entirely. We'll have to wait and see. Thanks for that, Mohammed. All right, next up. Boosters the Name writes, where's your clipboard, John? If we're going to be pregame, we're running zone or man-to-man when attacking the fridge or when. I got my clipboard right here. I'm taking my notes here, all that kind of stuff. I'm doing the X's and O's, doing the whole thing. I got a little bit of food waiting for me out there. I got some, although this is not, this isn't an alcoholic drink. For those of you who know me, you know I don't drink alcohol, but I know it's weird. As a Canadian, I don't drink beer. As an Italian, I don't drink wine. What kind of a Canadian Italian am I? I'm not really sure, but yeah, I don't actually drink any alcohol. But maybe I will. Maybe I'll crack open one for the pregame next week. I don't know. Jensen is saying there's hockey on. I know. My Maple Leafs are playing the Ottawa Senators right now. Believe me, I know I'm missing out on that. I'm going to have to go back and watch the replay of that a little bit later. All right, next up. Thanks for that, Boosters. I appreciate that, man. Next up, Will Quick writes, do you think Evan Peters will turn out to be an original character and just be a funny casting with no relation to the Fox universe to throw us off, possibly Marvel showing off their new IP rights? Yep. Yes, I do. Do I think that's 100%? No. I don't think that's 100%. I wouldn't guarantee it, but it is the way I'm leaning. If I had to put $5 on any of the possibilities, and there are other possibilities, but I had to put $5 on one, that's the one I'm putting my $5 on. I believe the casting of Evan Peters was a massive, fun, wink of the eye misdirect to the audience, but he will turn out to be a different character. Now, but again, I'm not 100% on that. I am certainly not 100% on that. Could very well be that he's somebody else, but and maybe even Quicksilver, but we'll find out soon enough, my friends. We'll find out soon enough. All right, next up, Ian Wendu writes, I had a dream that the actor playing the engineer came to my house and it was John Krasinski as Reed Richards. Watch it happen. Ian Wendu, not only will your head explode from all the dreams, it will make the internet's head explode collectively all around the world. You will feel vibrations in the earth of people's jaws dropping to the floor. You will feel it. All right, next up, Andrew White writes, Pietro Speed killed the he is a Skrull theory, unless, what if he's a super Skrull? Marvel owns them now, and they could be the secret invasion threat as opposed to the Skrulls we know. The problem is this. We don't know anything about Skrulls. But John, in the comic books, I know, but these aren't the comic books. These aren't the comic books. Yes, but John, in Captain Marvel, yes, but what the events of Captain Marvel didn't happen inside of a hex. I mean, there's so much we don't know. There are so many things that are possibilities, and you can't ignore those possibilities. Just like I don't think Agatha, or that Agnes is Agatha Harkness, but I have to acknowledge that's a possibility. That is very much the brooch, the witch outfit, the name. I mean, there's a lot of things there that show us that is definitely a possibility. And I think we have to not think that we know a lot of stuff just because of things that happen in the comics. So we'll see. We'll see. All right. By the way, guys, 6 hours. We are 6 hours from the launch of WandaVision, episode 7. It's game day, ladies and gentlemen. It's game day. Let's move on here. Thank you for that, Andrew. Appreciate that. But again, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. The Doctor 2310 writes, maybe I missed something, but if Monica's name changed to Geraldine in the Hex, maybe Agnes's name changed to Agnes in the Hex. Wait a second. Maybe Agnes's name changed to Agnes's name changed to Agnes. Do you mean Agatha's name changed to Agnes in the Hex and it's actually something else? Oh no, that's totally possible. Absolutely. This could be Agatha Harkness, or it could be, I don't know, Lucy Makovich or whatever. But yes, I assume the name has changed. Maybe not, but I assume the name has changed. So I think you're absolutely 100% right about that, the Doctor. All right, Andrew Huffman writes, do you think the brooch that Agnes wears possesses the darkness of Mephisto or Nightmare? I noticed that when she is scared, she's not wearing the brooch. I've noticed there have been times she's wearing the brooch, times that she's not. But again, that's assuming she is Agatha Harkness, which right now I don't make that assumption. I'm not there that she's Agatha Harkness. Very well could be, because there is evidence suggesting that possibility. So if she's Agatha Harkness, could that brooch be holding it? I don't know. I think even if she's Agatha Harkness, I think she's a victim. She's clearly scared of Wanda. Like that's obvious. She is terrified of Wanda. And maybe she's on the run and hiding from Mordo. Maybe she's being used as a pawn by Mephisto or Nightmare. But whatever it is, I think she's more of a pawn here. I don't think she's holding the possession of any big power. But you never know. You never know. Let's see. Next up. Lacey Bold writes, do you think Wanda will ever get a happy ending? I don't. I think this is going to be a Shakespearean level tragedy. And I don't think it ends well for Wanda, either in WandaVision or ultimately. I honestly think right now I could change my mind after episode 7, after episode 8, after episode 9, after Spider-Man 3. I could totally change my mind. But right now, today, game day, on February 18th, 2021, my theory right now is that Wanda dies in Doctor Strange 2. I think Wanda dies in Doctor Strange too. I think they ultimately, because in House of M, the big conundrum, the big dilemma that the X-Men and that the Avengers face is that Charles Xavier comes to them and says, Wanda is simply a threat to our world. And I can't help her. I can't stabilize her. She poses a very real threat to the world, and we may have to put her down. Now, that's a big deal in House of M. And I think taking that theme, it won't happen like it does in the comics, but taking that theme, I think you could get into Doctor Strange 2, and at the end of it all, you could have Doctor Strange who just basically has to go, we're running out of options here. We have no choice. We have to kill Wanda. We have to kill this Wanda Maximoff. We got to kill her. And I think they probably kill her. Now, I don't know that, and I may change my mind. But we will find out. All right. But no, I don't think Wanda gets her happy ending. I don't. By the way, there's been fake trailers going around for WandaVision. I am seeing now that a little bit earlier today, an actual official WandaVision episode 7 clip did come out. So I'm going to go watch that, guys. Will you guys give me a moment? I'm going to watch it right now. I can't bring it up on my screen because I don't want YouTube to flag me here. So let me just watch this quick. Okay, so there's the Modern Family thing.
Anger get the best of us, intentionally expanding the borders of the false world we created.
She just acknowledged she created the false world. She just acknowledged that. Okay, so that's big. Now she's laying in bed. The kids, it's the 2010s, but they're still, the kids haven't aged up a bit. Oh, their remote controls updated. Oh, now they go, oh, the remote controls are going through different time phases now. Oh, she's losing control of the Hex. She's losing control of the Hex. Let's see what happens.
Mom, my head feels weird.
Uh-oh.
It's like really noisy.
Wiccan's head feels weird. Uh-oh. What's happening?
As punishment for my reckless eating, I plan on taking the quarantine source
Okay, so this is a trailer. This is a clip.
the whole day.
She's taking a siesta, a break for herself. But what are they going to do? She's going to be off by herself. That means bad things are going to happen with everybody else. And she's still wearing the Wanda costume from the previous night, even though it's now the 2010s. Okay, let's see what happens here. She looks like she's in a play. Okay, that was that. Oh no, Wiccan's getting a bunch of voices in his head, ladies and gentlemen. That ain't good. Don't get too attached to this kid. I think they're going to kill him. They're going to kill that kid. That kid's dead. Both of them are dead. They're dead. I'm telling you, Wanda's losing her kids. She's going to lose her fake brother. She's going to lose her fake husband. She's going to lose everything. She's going to snap, and that's going to leave it. This ain't going to end well, people. This ain't going to end well. Let's see. Let's move on here. Stephen J. writes, Peter says, blood is thicker than water to the children. Look up the original meaning of the phrase, exact opposite of what people think it means. I'll have to go look it up. I mean, that's a common phrase, blood is thicker than water, but I've never looked up the origin of the phrase. Maybe I'll have to do that later, Stephen. Thanks for putting that in there. Hulk Shooter 32 writes, theory, aerospace engineer is Blue Marvel and has a PhD in electrical engineering. We were just talking about that at the beginning of the episode. But this is the much they changed it to aerospace, set up for Captain Marvel 2. Well, yeah, we talked about that at the beginning of the show. One of the possibilities here I brought up one of them is Adam Brashear, also known as Blue Marvel, who was dating Monica in the comics and is an engineer. Granted, an electrical engineer, but you can change that and say it's an aerospace engineer. You could do that. Again, there are reasons why I think it may not be him, but that he's definitely one of the possibilities. All right. Jonathan Vigoa writes, my prediction is in that Jimmy Woo will get sucked into the Hex and be transformed into his character from The Office working at Vision's job. Listen, I thought for a minute, wouldn't it be hilarious, number one, if John Krasinski does show up as Reed Richards, and then Reed Richards, Monica, and Jimmy Woo get sucked into the Hex, and Jim and Asian Jim are both there together. I thought that would be hilarious. I don't think they're going to do it, but oh my God, that would be funny. All right. Jonathan also writes, with my prediction, it would kind of make sense why Darcy and Woo characters were selected to join this show. They are both in prominent sitcoms. Well, no, they were selected to be in this show because they're great MCU characters. Darcy is an astrophysicist. You needed that character. Jimmy's just a great character. I don't think they would have brought them in for one single sight gag. You know, oh, we got this idea for this one visual gag. Well, let's put this entire character in for all of our episodes because we want to have this one gag. I don't think they would do it for that. But that doesn't mean it's not an option and a possibility to open themselves up. Since they're going to have Jimmy there, since they're going to have Randall Park there, maybe you could do it. But again, they seem to be avoiding other networks' shows. So I don't know. We'll see. Armando Riaz just sends in a super chat. Thank you, Armando. Ernie writes, would you say that WandaVision is the best MCU show ever? I still think it's Daredevil season 1 or 2. Well, listen, let's ask that question once the season's over. All right. Somebody was asking me the other day, what do I think is the better Disney Plus show, Mandalorian or WandaVision? And I said, well, I've had 2 completed seasons of Mandalorian. I know what I have when I think of The Mandalorian. Right now, we're only 2/3 of the way through 1 season of WandaVision. Let's wait till WandaVision's done. Right now, I would say either Daredevil or Punisher. I loved the John Bernthal Punisher, seasons 1 and 2. But yeah, Daredevil season 1 and season 2 and season 3. I mean, they were all great. But again, let's ask that question once WandaVision is actually done and we have a completed season. Then we'll be in a better position to kind of start, making thoughts about that. All right, let's go on here. James Betha writes, my prediction is that the curtain falls tonight. It could. Because if the next episode is a flashback episode, then I think something really dramatic will happen at the end of episode 7 that then whisks us into a flashback. So whether the curtain falls or whatever, I think something very big like that could happen. So you could be right, James. JMeister25 writes, I challenge people to rewatch episodes 1 through 3, knowing the context of episodes 4 through 6. They're so much creepier because these people are in constant pain. Listen, it goes right back to that one thing when the husband was choking, right? Now, when you look back at the wife going, stop it, and tears are starting to come out of her eyes. Stop it. It makes it super creepy. I mean, it was already really creepy to start with, but that does make it like even more creepy. Makes it super creepy. Trent writes, is a Wanda versus Vision fight coming? Gosh, I hope so. I think so. And I think what it'll be, it's not going to be Vision trying to stop Wanda. I think it's going to be Wanda trying to stop Vision. I think this Vision is going to realize he's not the real Vision, that this thing he's living is a lie, and all these people are suffering because Wanda wants to keep him alive in this fantasy. And he's going to do something to try to end all of it, to end the dome, end himself. And it'll be Wanda trying to stop him. So I think so. I mean, I don't know that, Trent. I'm just taking a guess, but I think we could be going in that direction. All right, next up, Cam K writes, I get you don't think the kids will make it, but with Young Avengers characters plus Kang the Conqueror just around the corner, let's theorize they do. If so, without Wanda and Vision, who will raise them? Well, I mean, listen, if you want to theorize that the kids make it out of this show, the answer is very simple. Nobody has to raise them. Who raised them to this point they're at right now? Nobody. They aged themselves up. They looked at each other, aged themselves up. If they're going to make it out of this show, they're going to make it out of this show at an older age. They're going to age up again. Now, again, remember, I don't think they make it out of the show. But if they do make it out of the show, they're not going to be this age. They're not going to be these kids. They're going to be 20, 21. They'll be young, but they'll be older where nobody has to raise them anymore. So I don't think they're making it out of the show, but if they do, they're going to be a little bit older, maybe a lot older. They're going to be older than they are right now and won't require somebody to raise them. So that's my guess, Cam K. Good question, though, man. All right, Andrew Vanderpool writes, I genuinely think if the engineer is anything other than Mr. Fantastic himself, fans will be extremely disappointed. Hashtag ready to be disappointed. Well, I mean, no, I think there are other options that could be very exciting. Like, come on. It's not Tony Stark. But if it was Tony Stark, do you think people are going to mope that it wasn't Reed Richards? No. Amongst a lot of average film fans, do you think there's a lot of average film fans that are super invested that it be Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four? No. I bet you there are a lot of average fans out there that you ask, do you know who Reed Richards is? And they'll go, who? They'll do the Jaimon Hansu from Guardians of the Galaxy. Who? I mean, there are a bunch of people who wouldn't even know what we're talking about. But yes, if it's not Reed Richards, there will be some people disappointed. But there are a lot of other names out there that could be almost as good. I mean, some that would be even better. Can you imagine if Robert Downey Jr. walked out of a car as Tony Stark? How the hell does that make sense? Oh, it doesn't. But if he did, you don't think that would get a big pop? Of course it would. And I'm just saying there's other names that could do it as well. Again, Quentin Beck, if Jake Gyllenhaal Mysterio comes walking out, I mean, yeah, maybe it's not Reed Richards, but that'll get a lot of people talking. So we'll see. We'll see, Andrew. All right, next up, Andrew Reynolds writes, did you ever notice how when Vision shut Ultron out of the web is the same exact way how he snaps people out of Wanda's spell? Oh, you know what? I didn't think about that. I mean, clearly he's doing something a little different. But no, I never thought of it that way, Andrew. That's really a good thing to raise up. Let's keep our eyes on that going in to see if that happens again and if he uses it in a different way, because that's a really good observation. Well done, Andrew. Next up, Soul Brother Mac writes, funny thought, Vision's mind is made up of Jarvis, Ultron, Tony, Banner, and the Stone, and not one of them can remember his time before he died. Again, this all goes to the point that I don't think this is actually Vision. I think this is a new entity that Wanda made out of the scrapped Vision parts, but this is a totally different incarnation. And I think Vision is going to realize he's not actually the real Vision. That's why he has no memory of the Avengers. He has no memory before Westview because that's when he came into being. And I think that's why the show is showing us he can't exist outside of the Hex. Now, I could be wrong. So we'll see. But I mean, I don't think he is actually Vision. I think what you're pointing out here kind of goes towards that. We'll find out, though. We will find out. All right, Alex Von Gollum writes, hey, Gio. Hello, Alex. Last episode, Wanda didn't hesitate to blast Pietro after he said it wasn't like Vision had died twice. Do you think Wanda will cast him out? Will she care about him anymore? Now, listen, that is... Yeah, she wasn't playing around. When he made that joke, she wasn't having it. She wasn't having it. I mean, listen, that is the equivalent of your buddy cracking a joke and you just turning around and punching your buddy in the face. For her to use her power to blast him so hard, it sent him flying 20 feet. That's serious. She's pissed. What is the repercussions of that? I don't know. Oh my God, I just saw something in the live chat. Here we go. Antoine writes in the live chat, the rat that saved Ant-Man, that brought Ant-Man out of the quantum realm in Endgame and saved him. Remember the rat tripped over the machine to reactivate and bring him out of the quantum realm? That's actually Master Splinter. And Master Splinter is going to be the Mr. Engineer. There you go. You don't even have to watch the episode tonight, guys. Antoine figured it out. I don't know, we'll see. I like the theory, though. All right. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where the relationship between the two of them are right now. That's because that was a serious thing, man. She blasted the dude. Anyway, DMen05 writes, if they follow the comics, the kids won't make it out, but prepare for 2 more fake deaths when they come back as teenagers. Possibly. It is the Marvel fake death universe, D-Men. Now, again, just because they did it a certain way in the comics absolutely means nothing, right? The MCU often completely disregards the comics. They'll take themes, they'll take thematic ideas and apply them, but they're often completely different from the comics. So yeah, just because the kids don't, they don't do well, or I should say, just because the kids things don't go well for the kids in the comic thing, that doesn't necessarily mean they won't make it out here. Like, I don't think they make it out, but not because things don't go well in the comics. So we'll see. All right, next up, Ryan Towell writes, Wanda's dream is a nightmare for everyone else. Feige said Mom is thrilling and scary. What better villain for thrilling and scary than Nightmare, right? But here's the thing. Nobody knows who Nightmare is. Only comic fans who represent maybe 5% of the MCU's audience, 95% of the MCU's audience have never heard of Nightmare. Never heard of him. So it would kind of be an empty appearance. That said, I in no way, shape, or form bought into Nightmare. But that last episode with that shark and Yo Magic commercial, I'm telling you, I still don't buy into the Nightmare theory, but that commercial gives it a lot more credibility to me. I mean, before, I would have been shocked if Nightmare ends up being one of the other dark forces behind what's going on. Today, I'd still be a little surprised, but not shocked anymore. That commercial, seriously, if you are somebody who believes that Nightmare is one of the dark forces behind things, that shark commercial, that Yo Magic commercial really enforces your theory. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go with this. All right, next up, we got Max Cohen who writes, John, the gum I think is just a joke from the phrase gumming up the machine. Probably, yeah. I think a Mr. Fantastic is the most likely of the unlikely. I mean, listen, there is so much good that comes if it's Mr. Fantastic. Right now, at 6:27 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Thursday, February the 18th, 2021, I believe the most likely of the unlikely is Quentin Beck. He's there in the MCU. It would be a big pop. It's a big star, Jake Gyllenhaal. It checks a lot of boxes. So while I absolutely think Brashear, while I absolutely think Hammer, while I absolutely think Reed Richards are all definitely on the table, I'd say out of all the unlikely scenarios, I still think Quentin Beck is the most likely of the unlikely. I'm not willing to put any money on that. Make no mistake, but we'll see. All right, Cam K writes, what happens if Vision awakes himself? I mean, can he even do that? Is that something he can do? Because remember, I don't think he is under a trance. I don't think this is actually Vision. And I think this is a Ben Reilly situation. Again, I know a lot of you have heard me say this, but for those of you who don't know, in the Spider-Man comics, there was this thing called the Clone Saga, right? I think it was called the Clone Saga at any rate. But where basically what it turned out, Bill Fong is saying Quentin Beck is dead. No, he isn't. Quentin Beck is very much alive. But John, in Spider-Man 2 doesn't happen until 7 months after WandaVision. Remember? So Quentin Beck is still alive. He doesn't die for another 7 months in WandaVision time. Anyway, in the Spider-Man comics, there was this thing where the guy who had been living the life of Peter Parker and really did think he was Peter Parker, turns out this guy who's been living as Peter Parker for a couple of years wasn't Peter Parker. He was a clone of Peter Parker. And he didn't even know it. He thought he was Peter Parker. But Peter Parker had actually been captured and cloned. And anyway, all this stuff goes on. So anyway, he eventually realizes he's a clone. The real Peter Parker comes back. They get it all worked out. The guy who is the clone and thought he was Peter Parker, he changes his name to Ben Reilly and goes off and becomes a character known as the Scarlet Spider. The reason I think this is all connected is because I think we're kind of looking at a similar situation. I think this Vision thinks he's Vision, but he's not really Vision. So I think there's a little bit of that in there. So I mean, I don't know. Could totally be Vision. Don't know, but that's just kind of what where my thinking is right now. All right. Thanks for that, Cam K. J Meister 25 writes, I don't want to definitely say who I think the engineer is going to be because I don't want to set myself up for disappointment, but a man can dream. Listen, so many people thinking, hoping it's Dr. Doom. So many people hoping it's Hank McCoy. So many people hoping it's Rocket Raccoon. So many people hoping it's not just Reed Richards, but John Krasinski is Reed Richards. I mean, so you're not alone, J Meister. You're not alone, my friend. All right. Let's see. Junis Moiseo writes, I think the aerospace engineer could be Ben Grimm. Ben Grimm's not the brains of the operation, though, right? I mean, if it was going to be anybody from the Fantastic Four world that is not Reed Richards, then it is most likely Dr. Doom. It is most likely Dr. Doom. So, yeah, I don't think it's going to be Ben Grimm, but wouldn't that be a kick in the pants? All right. Dr. J writes, WandaVision may or may not run for 6 hours. The John Campea team are rapidly approaching 400 hours of WandaVision content review. Incredible commitment to the fans. Simon Williams, pre-Wonder Man tonight. Thank you, John. I mean, that's a theory and yes, it is crazy. Like I remember when me and Ann would do, when we started the WandaVision post show, the spoiler discussion, we thought 2 to 3 hours. After we ended up doing all the companion videos, it ends up being like 9 or 10 hours. It's absolutely crazy. But I mean, like Wonder Man is somebody other people have brought up as well, Dr. J. So again, I don't think it's one of the more likely scenarios, but it's there. It is a theory that's out there, and you're not the only one to say it, Doctor, so you're not alone. You're not crazy for thinking that. There have been other people that have thought it too. So maybe, anything's possible. Let's see. AJ Zyla writes, Bill Foster, Fishburne's character, is the engineer. Again, other people have brought that up too. I don't see the connection because, listen, if Ant-Man 3 was a part of this story, the WandaVision, Spider-Man 3, Doctor Doom story, I would see it. But since he's not, I'm going to guess not. But hey, Lawrence Fishburne's got some free time. It would be kind of fun, and he is great. So I don't know. We'll see. S Beam sends in a super chat. Just send it in. Thank you, S Beam. Appreciate that, man. Reginald Neck here writes, sends in like $20, writes, don't know if anyone has said this, but I feel like Hayward might be Ultron disguised as a human. Many people have suggested this, Reginald. You're not alone, and you're not crazy. He is the one guns blazing on Wanda and always keeping track of his body vision. Possibly. I think Ultron, if Ultron is involved though, I think it might be on the other side of the equation. I think Ultron may become involved in the sense that people are trying to recreate Ultron. I think people are trying to bring Ultron back or reignite the Ultron project. You know, it's the whole thing about, the old adage that you see in so many movies. Oh, yes, we think we can unleash this great power, but we'll have control of it and everything will be fine because we're in control. That never works out well, right? So I kind of think that's what's happening. So listen, Ultron being involved here, definitely a possibility for sure. All right, thanks for sending that in, Reginald. And again, don't think you're crazy because there are other people who have the exact same thought as you, my brother. All right, next up, Mary writes, have a feeling we won't see Vision at all in episode 7. If he is, though, he'll recognize Darcy and wake her up to get more info. I don't think he'd recognize Darcy. I don't think he's ever met Darcy. I don't think Vision's ever met Darcy. So I'm not quite sure why he would recognize Darcy. And remember, if my theory is right, this isn't even the real Vision anyway, so there's no way he would recognize her. But yeah, I don't think of any time in the MCU. You guys in the live chat, am I missing something? Okay. Meme ZYY writes, he saw Darcy when he left the Hex. But did he see her? Did he see her? I don't know, maybe, I guess so. But I mean, he wouldn't have known her, but maybe he recognized, hey, I saw you for a second. Okay, maybe. That's actually a good point. Okay, Mary, let's see where that goes. That might be. He recognizes that she was outside that, like he doesn't know her, but he recognizes her as somebody who was outside the Hex. Now he's inside. You know what? I'm going to walk that back. Yeah, that makes sense. Maybe Darcy will be the way that Vision starts to piece the pieces of the puzzle back together. That may not be a bad idea. That actually, you know what? You could be onto something there, Mary. I like it. I like it. Let's see if that does play out tonight. Pregame, everybody, pregame. Mr. Hank Dunn writes, I love the show, and it's Howard the Duck is the engineer. Yeah, I got what you need right here, lady. I mean, I wouldn't put it past him at this point. Wesley Herback sends in a super chat. Thank you, Wesley. Malik Hunter writes, what do you think this show has to do as a whole to be considered a success, not only as a standalone show, but as a greater part of the MCU going forward? Here's the thing. I don't think it has to be seen as a greater part of the MCU going forward in order to be a success. I don't care. Just give me a good, entertaining IP. Just give me a piece of content that's a really good, entertaining piece of content. For it to be a success, look, it already is. It is the number one show in the world. We covered this on the show the other day. That WandaVision is now the number one show in the world. It is already a success by any measurement. By any measurements, it's already a huge success. And it's not just the number one streaming, it is the number one most on-demand talked about show in the world right now. So it doesn't have to be, it doesn't matter how it fits into the overall picture of the MCU. I just want each individual thing to be great. And if it connects in well with other things, fabulous. But yeah, I would say right now, Malik, that it is already a huge success. And by any standard or definition, it's already huge, regardless of how it ties into anything else. At least that's how I see it. All right, thanks for the question, man. Joshua Tabik writes, I thought that was Tom Cruise from Eyes Wide Shut. Getting a little bit filthy. Oh, man. And that, by the way, if you haven't seen Eyes Wide Shut, Kimberly and I were talking about it the other day. It is a very, very dirty movie. I mean, it's very filthy. Lots of filthy in that. But it's a very good movie. You should check it out if you haven't had a chance. All right, next up. Smilodon writes, some people actually genuinely believe that the cameo could be Batman. But could Disney actually do that? No. Nobody on the planet actually believes that Batman is showing up in this. That would be... if Batman... And imagine it's Ben Affleck's Batman. Anyway, so no. Make absolutely zero mistake about it. I'll always say anything's possible. That's not possible. So no, it will absolutely 1000% not be Batman. All right, Power is Power writes, you've never talked to me like this. Vision gone with Mind Stone, but Ultron is all software. Ultron is never really gone. I mean, again, but this goes to the point that I was making earlier. I don't think Ultron is in there because I don't think this is actually Vision. Right? The software is gone. Vision's body died and then was dissected and ripped apart, and whatever software was in there is gone. And now there's this new iteration, this new incarnation inside the hex only, can't exist outside the hex. So while Ultron Power is Power could play a part here, I don't think it's going to play a part like that. If Ultron does play a part, it's going to be in a different way. I think, but keep your eyes open. We'll see. We'll check for more hints. All right. Gerard Lennon just sends in a super chat. Thank you, Gerard. I appreciate that, man. Michael Bradley writes, hello, John. Hello. My theory is Wanda created the bubble to keep the big baddie inside. And the big bad is whatever is controlling Vision. I don't know. I don't think she created a prison. I don't think she created that thing to be a prison. At least that's not what I'm getting from this so far. Remember, things have been able to come out of that thing, right? Like even the rope. Remember the rope on Agent Franklin? They pulled it out and it turned into a skipping rope. So they were able to just pull that out. So yeah, I don't know that I buy that theory that she created it as a prison. I think she was, look, she's already talking to her brother. She created this to have her ideal life. She kind of expressed that to what we think is Pietro, right? So I don't know, but listen, I'm telling you, man, here's the thing, Michael, if it turns out they reveal that this is actually one big prison for a Mephisto or whatever, and she did that herself just to keep somebody in prison there, I'll remember you said that because you're the only person I've heard suggest that. And so big kudos to you if it turns out that you're right. All right, next up, Christopher Benson writes, I'm hoping that Mordo is the secret villain and that his presence leads into Doctor Strange too. Again, those are connecting dots, why I could see it being a possibility. I love the idea that another viewer wrote in earlier and said it's not that he's after Wanda. Because I've always said the thing about Mordo is he's after sorcerers. He's not after Wanda. Wanda's not a sorcerer. But John, her name is the Scarlet Witch. I know her name's the Scarlet Witch, but in the MCU, she is not a sorceress or anything. But another viewer wrote in earlier and said, what if Agnes is Agatha Harkness and Mordo's after her? And she's actually like taking refuge inside the Hex. I like that idea. I think that idea is pretty cool. All right. Next up. Where are we at? Powers Power writes, in Age of Ultron, Ultron did get 50% of download complete before Wanda interfered. He's in there somewhere. Again, you're making the assumption that this is actually Vision, and my proposition is that he is not actually Vision. This is something completely different that Wanda made out of Vision's scrap, but I don't think, but Ultron could play a part. I just don't think it'll be that way. But if you're right, we will find out soon enough, Powers Power. By all means, write in and rub it in if it turns out that you're right. All right. Wesley Herbach writes, Evan Peters is Nicholas Scratch. Just wait. You know what? I'm going to admit right now, I don't recognize the name of Nicholas Scratch. I don't recognize the name. I'll look it up here just for a second. Nicholas Scratch is a Marvel character, a fiction wizard and supervillain appearing in American comic books. You know what? I'm not even familiar with the character. There you go. So, but here's the thing. If I'm not familiar with Nicholas Scratch, will that really mean anything to anybody? I don't know. I mean, as I'm looking at his bio here, though, I mean, this is a character that theoretically, if Marvel wanted him in this show, he's a character that would fit in. I don't know that he's much of a big reveal, but maybe. I mean, again, I'm not familiar with the character. How can I know everything about Agatha Harkness and I'm not familiar with this character? So I'm not familiar with this character, but I'm glancing over the bio. You know what? This is a character who would fit. This character would fit. Again, nobody would care that it's this character because nobody will know who this character is. But hey, if you're looking for dots to connect, this is a character whose dots connect. Tell you what, Wesley, you might be onto something there. You might be onto something. All right, next up, Soul Brother Mac writes, another funny thought. WandaVision does an episode where Ultron shows to babysit his grandsons while Wanda and Vision go on a date. Hey, listen, don't laugh, Soul Brother. I said a couple of weeks ago, imagine Ultron just walking around in Westview as like a mailman and nobody even blinks that it's a giant robot. And I even had some of you guys send in your artwork of Ultron as a mailman. Hello, Wanda. Good day. Delivering the mail. And he's just Ultron in that. So grandfather Ultron, because in a way he's kind of Vision's dad in some way, showing up to babysit the kids. Holy crap. Imagine if that happened. Of course, Wanda would probably want to blast him right away because she holds him responsible for killing her brother, but that would be funny. All right, Boo Boo Kitty writes, what if Agnes is a misdirect? I totally think she's a misdirect, but Agatha Harkness is still involved. The real Agatha will be either Mary Kate or Ashley Olsen, I would scream. Well, you know what? When WandaVision was starting, I was all for the idea of Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen being involved, especially when they get to the Full House era, right? I was all for it. But some people pointed out to me that no, it was specifically stated that they weren't going to be involved, which I think is a bit of a missed opportunity, but wouldn't that have been funny? All right, next up, Nicholas Onsuil. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that. Sorry about that, man. One of two. Like you, I don't believe that this is the X-Men Pietro, but wouldn't it be cool if this episode ends with Vision walking up to him and him saying, where's Charles? Woo! Or something like that. Would you be satisfied with that? I mean, look. If at some point, let's say Vision goes up to Pietro and does the mind zap. Boop, you're out from under the spell. And the first thing Evan Peters says is, where's Charles? How could it not be Quicksilver at that point? I mean, if that were to happen, and the first thing he says coming out of the trance is, where's Charles? How could that not be Quicksilver? I mean, at that point, it is Quicksilver, right? So I don't know. That would be fun. That would be totally fun if that was to happen. Okay, let's see. D-Men5 writes, did you see the episode 5 Easter egg someone found on a sort of gray arm holding Pietro through the mirror behind Wanda? I don't think that was real, to be honest. Color of that arm matches the legs of the dude staring in episode 6. Again, I really don't think there's anything to that. And I saw that there was a bunch of videos going around with that. I honestly don't think, I think we were just convincing ourselves we were seeing something. I don't think they actually had anything there. So I don't think that's anything. I can say that right now, but we will find out. We will find out tonight. I think tonight, if there's anything to that, I think we'll find out. Because remember, I think the next episode is flashback. And then I think episode 9 is going to be all climax, like a big MCU style, big crescendo climax. So if we're going to find out anything that there's anything to that, I think we're going to find that out tonight, D-Men. Let's see. Let's see. All right, JMeister25 writes, biggest thing I want from this final act is Wanda sobbing alone in a room, really drive home the tragedy. Listen, I think we are going to get the performance of a lifetime from Elizabeth Olsen. I think we are going to have a scene where she is totally broken. Totally broken. And it all comes out, and I believe we are going to get all the feels, and we will see. We will see. All right, thanks, Jay Meister. Next up, we've got Patrick B, who writes, Full House episode, Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen cameo, I wish. I mean, obviously, if that was going to happen, it would have happened before, and it didn't, and a little bit of a missed opportunity. Harry Ord writes, I'd be so surprised if we get an ending to this season that we never thought would happen. What do you think? Listen, I have no idea how it's going to end. The only thing I have is that it ends badly, right? There's two ways to end. Happy ending, bad ending. I think this ends badly. And I don't mean quality-wise. I mean a mess. I mean bad things, whether it's Wanda going completely crazy and wrecking shop and then disappearing, or I don't know. I have no idea how it's specifically going to end. I just think it's going to end badly, Harry. I think it's going to end badly. If this ends with a happy ending, I'll be shocked. I'll be shocked. I do not think we're getting a happy ending out of this. Not at all. I think this is going to be an Empire Strikes Back ending. Yeah, Luke and Lando and Leia got away, but really it was a big, big loss. Right? The Empire wiped out most of the rebellion. Han got captured. Everybody's on the run. I think we may get that kind of ending. I think we're getting an Empire Strikes Back kind of ending here. Jake C writes, if Marvel thought like Lucasfilm, every episode of WandaVision would be a backdoor pilot for 50 other upcoming Disney Plus shows. LMAO. Well, listen, Marvel does kind of do that, don't they? You bring in Black Panther and Winter Soldier. Yeah, you introduce players here and there. I mean, in a way, Marvel and Lucasfilm do kind of think the same way. Maybe not as much as Lucasfilm does, but I mean, they kind of do in a little bit of a way, Jake C. Patrick Manis writes, the lullaby Wanda sings in episode 3 is identical to the lullaby Magneto, Fassbender, sings to his daughter, not Wanda, in X-Men Apocalypse. Really? Identical? Are you sure about that? Do you guys in the live chat? Now, it's been a beat since I've watched X-Men Apocalypse. I didn't like it very much, but it's been a beat since I've watched X-Men Apocalypse. But is it actually the identical exact same song? Because if it is, like the very first thing I'm going to do when we're done this show, guys, the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go and watch that. Some people are saying, yes, it is. Now I got somebody else saying in there, no, it is not identical. Maybe it's so, because if it's similar, that means nothing. If it's identical, that could mean everything. That could mean everything. Mershin is saying it's close, but it's not identical. Yeah, I got a bunch of people saying it's similar, but it's not identical. All right, I'm going to go and look at that after the show. But if it's identical, if she is singing a song to her children that is the exact same song that the Michael Fassbender character was singing to his child, which by the way died, was singing to his child, That could mean a lot. That could mean a lot. I don't know. But remember, Michael Fassbender's child there died. So I don't know. But it could mean something, Patrick. Oh my God, that could mean a lot. But is that an identifiable... is that a real lullaby? Like, is that a traditional European lullaby? Because if it's a traditional European lullaby that they sing, then really it could mean nothing at all. But if it's something they made up for that movie, and then they repeat it, that makes the mind explode. So I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. All right. Again, I'm not going to get too terribly excited till I see it myself. And somebody's got to tell me, is that a real lullaby? That there are parents in the world who have sung this lullaby to their kids. If so, then probably it doesn't mean anything at all. Let's see. Next up, Glenn Skew writes, Mysterio appearing has a big problem. He is a Sony character. Disney and Sony would have to have another agreement. Would they go this far for a cameo? Listen, they've already got him in the MCU, right? They've already got him in the MCU. Now, would they need Sony's blessing to go ahead and do that? Sure, but you wouldn't have to restructure an entire new agreement. They've already got him in the MCU. I'm sure they'd have to give Sony a call and say, Sony, are you cool if we do this? And since it's a character they've killed anyway already, I don't think it would be that hard for them to do. I really don't think it would be that. Now, again, I'm not saying I think it's going to be Quentin Beck. I just think out of all the unlikely scenarios, I think it's a fairly likely one. All right, next up, Hawk Pajamas writes, a lot of similarities between Wanda and Jean Grey in WandaVision, absolutely. Or is that just me? No, absolutely. Listen, Kimberly brought it up on the companion video the other day too, right? Like it ends with like her going way too powerful, destroying too much stuff, and ultimately, Wolverine's got to give her the 3 adamantium salute right up the belly. I mean, so there could be a very, very strong similarity here, man. Absolutely. All right. Then just some quick thanks to people who sent in just super chats, super chat donations. Cam K, Parker, Eric Dilmuro, Leo Liang, John C. Nelson, and John C. Nelson. Thank you guys for sending in. Guys, that's it. We got through all of them. We got all the way through. That'll do it for our WandaVision episode 7 pregame show. Guys, I had a lot more fun doing this than I thought we would. Just speculating about the next episode until we actually see the episode. I had fun. I don't know. Do me a favor, guys. Can you do me a favor? Could you email me at john@thejohncampeashow.com and just let me know if you thought this was fun. If you didn't, no worries. Like there's things I have fun with that nobody else did. If you had fun with it like I did, let me know and we'll continue to do more if you think it's worth doing it. And if not, then we'll just stick to doing the spoiler discussions. But I personally had a lot of fun doing this. Chris Hunt just sent in a super chat badge in the live chat as well. Thank you, man. So yeah, this has been a lot of fun for me. I hope you guys have had a good time too. We are now 5 hours from WandaVision episode 7, guys. Buckle in, hang tight. For those of you who are like me, that it comes out at midnight for you, we get to watch in just a few hours. For those of you who got to wait till tomorrow, may you sleep well and dream of theories of WandaVision. Guys, thanks so much for being here and being a part of this. I had a blast. Again, to all of our friends in Texas, all of our movie and TV loving brothers and sisters. Hang tight, guys. Be well. Please take care of each other. And guys, to all of you who sent in the chats, thank you so much for giving us fun things to talk about and theorize over. And thank you for supporting our channel at the same time. All right, guys, don't forget the John Campea Show returns tomorrow. And then, of course, the WandaVision episode 7 spoiler discussion happens at 4 p.m. tomorrow evening with me and. That'll do it for me for now, guys. Thank you so much for being here. My name's John Campea. And until next time, my friends, game day.